are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to College Loop Podcast. I'm Dylan Aywooding on Twitter, here to talk to you today about Auburn quarterbacks, because today I will be ranking my power rankings for the SEC starting quarterbacks going into the 2025 season. Now, this is all speculation on each of these starting quarterbacks. I don't think anyone's officially been announced outside of, probably the obvious ones. But really, this is a conversation about where Jackson Arnold really ranks amongst the SEC's finest. Now, of course, I think the SEC is the most talented conference in college football. I think you're a little ignorant if you don't agree with that sentiment. But quarterback-wise, I think this is where you really get to see this. I think that a lot of these guys have proven themselves. You're looking at a few of these guys who are seen as some of the top quarterback prospects going into next year's NFL draft. With plenty of these guys, have the opportunity to do or to raise their stock to the heights that you see of a Garrett Nussmeier or Lenora Sellers, who have been perennially right now. I don't want to say perennially, consistently in top 10 mock drafts. So I'm going to start off with the bottom of the list, kind of work my way to the top here. Number 16, a familiar face, is Zach Calzada. Now, I'm putting Zach Calzada here for multiple reasons. I think that you're looking at age. Dude has been playing football since 2019, and I posted a TikTok on my personal page, TikTok Football, ranking my quarterbacks. So if you've already seen it, then you kind of know what this list is going to go. Zach Calzada, again, went to Texas A&M, 2019, 2020, opted out. And then 2020, or I don't think he opted out, but he didn't play in 2020 based on ESPN. 2021, another year A&M, got kind of a starting job for a little bit. I think this is the year he beat Alabama. And then that win over Alabama was enough for Brian Harsin to bring in Calzada for his lone season at Auburn, where he did not see the field once. Don't even know if he ever suited up for Auburn. I don't think it's like finding a needle in a haystack, trying to find a picture of him in an Auburn uniform. And then spent the last 2 seasons at Incarnate Word. So you're looking at if my math is correct, the 7th season for Calzada, 2019. I'm going to count 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. That's 7 seasons of Calzada. And a veteran presence usually bodes well. But I think with how bad I think Kentucky is going to be this year, I think it's not going to bode well for Calzada. Definitely not the best choice he could have made when transferring out of Incarnate Word. Definitely not going to take the same route that Cam Ward took, getting those bigger and better looks outside of that. But yeah, I'm not sold on Calzada anymore. I think that going into the year where he came to Auburn, there was I could have swore it was gonna be him or TJ Finley, which, looking back, that is a fever dream that was my quarterback battle that I was rooting for in 2022. But those 2 years Incarnate Word did not have he's never had a bad season as a starter, but I just don't know if that transfers over to the SEC very well. Of course, I'm not high on Kentucky. I am extremely low on Kentucky. I think Mark Stoops is on his way out after the season. I think that so many years of being bad is not enough for them. It's not. It can't be that bad to where or they can just ignore it enough, or they just don't care enough that they can ignore it enough for basketball. When your football team is not performing as well as Kentucky used to, like a few years ago. You're looking at a team that has won 10 games recently in a season, and now you're looking at a year where they might win like 2 or 3. I don't think Kentucky's going to be a good team this year. I'm looking at bottom of the SEC for the Wildcats. So, I'm going to go ahead and move on from Calzada. Next, sticking with kind of the teams I think are going to be bad this year, Blake Shapen at Mississippi State, a guy who I'm pretty sure got hurt in last year. Michael Van Buren had to come in and looked pretty good. Michael Van Buren might have been higher up on my list. I think he had a very good freshman campaign. I don't think I won't say very good, but did good for what he could do at Mississippi State. Mississippi State, not a good team. And the jury's still on whether or not Jeff Lebby was a great hire or not. But Blake Shapen, in his time that he was the starting quarterback, didn't play terribly either. Was almost a 70% completion percentage, 974 yards, 8 touchdowns to 1 interception. Of course, the Baylor transfer going into his 5th year as a graduate transfer. Again, never had a bad season, just kind of trying to get healthy is going to be his issue going into this year. Of course, Mississippi State has another quarterback that could start here, and I think it's Camario Fields. Could definitely see the field for Mississippi State going into the season. But I think that right now, I think it's Blake Shapen is the guy going forward. I kind of want to make sure I get the quarterback's name right, which ESPN has not updated the rosters whatsoever. But right now, Blake Shapen is a projected starter, and he's going to stick at 15 for me. And kind of just going on, and I got a lot of heat for this one from what I have. Whenever I posted this on TikTok, a lot of apparently my feed sends all of my TikToks to Tuscaloosa because right now I have 14. I have Ty Simpson. Now this made a lot of Bama fans mad, which I don't care. But I just don't understand what's the hype around Ty Simpson. I understand he was a 5-star quarterback when he came to Alabama, but guess what? He's been on the team for 3 seasons and was never the starter. Always the backup, always the second best. Going to this year, I'm pretty sure they have said that if they started the season that week, Ty Simpson would have got the starting job. And look, I mean, everyone wants not everyone, but I guess Bama fans want Keelan Russell to start. But Ty Simpson is your starting quarterback, and I don't know what you've seen thus far to prove that he should be any higher than 14. Because if I go based off of his career stats, he's only thrown for about 400 yards over 3 years. Last year, 167, and he's not thrown a single touchdown in his career. He's rushed for 3, but he has not thrown one. 50% completion percentage over the past 2 seasons when he has thrown more than 5 passes in a year. I just don't really see the appeal to him being any higher on this list. He's not proven himself to be any higher on this list. I think 14 is being generous to the guy who actually started for an SEC team last year. So, I mean, I definitely could have put Blake Shapen over Ty Simpson. I could have put Zach Calzada over Ty Simpson. At least I know Zach Calzada's at least thrown a touchdown the past 4 years. So, Ty Simpson at 14. Now going to 13, Bo Pribula, the transfer out of Penn State to Missouri. Of course, last year, Bo Pribula was backing up Drew Aller, who decided to return. This would have been Penn State's quarterback going into this year had Drew Aller entered the NFL draft, but of course, a bad quarterback class was this past draft. Last year for Penn State saw limited playing time because Drew Aller is right there. Threw 35 passes, 275 yards, but has thrown 5 touchdowns to 1 interception. Has also rushed for 4 touchdowns last season as well. A very talented quarterback. I mean, he's had 10 rushing touchdowns over his past 2 seasons at Penn State, while also throwing 9 touchdowns to 1 interception over his career for the Nittany Lions. Now, I think you're getting a very talented quarterback going to Missouri. I just don't know if Missouri's going to have the talent to really back up his game that much. That's why he's that low on my list. Because I'm not sure yet going forward. And I definitely could have put him higher up on the list because of the talent that he has, and he's thrown for touchdowns like Ty Simpson. But I think Missouri's going to hold him back. If he is as good as he is advertised. I mean, last time Penn State sent a quarterback to the SEC, it was Will Levis, and of course, Will Levis stole everybody's hearts for the NFL draft, except for mine. I knew he was going to be a bust from the get-go, but who knows? Eli Drinkwitz has a lot to do to prove that he can consistently win in the SEC after losing a lot of talent. Luther Burden being one of those guys, and Theo Weiss. All right. Number 12, I got Joey Aguilar, the Tennessee quarterback now, formerly was a UCLA spring quarterback and now was a former UCLA App State quarterback. There we go. Going to a lot of places in just a few months. Last season for App State, 23 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, threw for 3,000 yards. Getting on this list, higher up on this list, because he was a full-time starter for a team, a major team at that, despite them being non P4. I think you give Heupel any kind of quarterback talent, he is going to do some damage with it. Now, again, I don't think Joey Aguilar is completely out of the woods yet. There are some guys for Tennessee right now that could still get the job. They brought in a 5-star commit, George McIntyre, out of Brentwood Academy, who could definitely get the job. They have another guy right next to him who could also get the job. 3-man race going into fall camp for Tennessee. But got to give it a little edge to Joey Aguilar because, of course, he is a starter. He was a starter at the college level within the past year. So, number 12, I got Joey Aguilar. Now, another one that got, when I said my TikTok reached out a lot to Tuscaloosa, it also found its way in Athens, Georgia, because 11, I have Gunnar Stockton, and this made a lot of Georgia fans mad. And again, I don't see what their deal is with me putting Gunnar Stockton at 11. So I go back to last year in the limited playing time that he got as a starter in both the I don't want to say that's the championship, but I mean, kind of was a starter. I think Carson Beck got knocked out pretty early into that game, but he beat Texas, which cool, but 12 of 16, 71 yards and a pick, was not the star of the show for Georgia. It definitely was not. And you go into his game versus Notre Dame, he threw a touchdown, got sacked 4 times, rushed for negative 23 yards, 234 yards passing in that game. Now, I mean, he could be different. He could be the next, whatever you want to say for Georgia quarterbacks, but he's not proven anything yet. He's proven that he cannot get it done at the highest level of the sport in the 2 games. Of course, whenever your first 2 games are a SEC championship and a college football playoff game, nerves are a little high. But when you've been marinating for a year and a half as the next Georgia quarterback, you kind of should put a little bit, I don't want to say more effort, but you should be putting a little bit more on the field than what we've been seeing. I think Gunnar Stockton just hasn't proved that for anybody yet going forward. So, yeah, he's number 11 on my list. Now, get into the top 10. I got Austin Simmons out of Ole Miss. Now, again, a guy with a lot of limited playing time as well as a lot of these guys. But in the limited playing time he got as a freshman, 19 of 32, 282 yards, 2 touchdowns, while also rushing for 14 yards. I think a lot of things that carries over for Austin Simmons is that Georgia game, because he got in because Jackson Dart got knocked out for a bit, and he made it look easy for a little bit. He was lighting up Georgia's defense to where everyone's kind of sitting there watching this game and is like, is Jackson Dart the best quarterback on this roster? Of course he was, but Austin Simmons kind of went out there and showed out. And in the same light as I'm giving Joey Aguilar a little bit of an edge here at 12, I'm giving Austin Simmons a lot of edge here at 10, because I think Lane Kiffin can do a lot of damage with the talent in Austin Simmons. If he can do what he did versus Georgia to everybody, I mean, you're looking at a guy who can perform very well for Ole Miss. Of course, a team that has been perennial. I can say perennial here, perennially one of the more but what's the word I want? I found a place to use the word that I was trying to use at the beginning, but now underwhelming teams. There we go. Always at the top of the rankings, but never finishes there because they just knock themselves out in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, Austin Simmons, got him at number 10. And now going into the top 10, getting the single digits, this is where I have Jackson Arnold. So again, 5-star plus quarterback going to Oklahoma. There we go. Jeff Levy recruited him. Jeff Levy goes to Mississippi State. And then Jackson Arnold has a down year. And down year in the sense of better season, but just not what you were wanting to see from Jackson Arnold. 1,500 yards passing, 12 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Had to run the ball a lot. Ran the ball for his about as many times as he had completions. 444 yards and 3 touchdowns. Also got himself a receiving touchdown at that. Jackson Arnold's getting a little bit of another edge here, getting a little boost because of how talented he is and the roster he's going to. Auburn, of course, has one of the best wide receiver rooms in the country. You're getting a slew of talented running backs to work with, a good offensive line. You're getting everything that Oklahoma didn't give you. Now you're just hoping the scheme can work for you. Of course, Jackson Arnold has that. I think Hugh Freeze said this exactly. Jackson Arnold wanted to play for the Auburn scheme. Jackson Arnold wanted to be an Auburn Tiger because he thinks he can play the best in this scheme, the RPO game, the tempo, the trying to get these explosive plays down the field. Jackson Arnold feels that he can do that. And I got a lot of biasness for putting him this high, but I honestly think if he can shut down the turnovers, you can get someone to hold the ball a little bit better. And he's already gotten the team that he needed to show out. I think Jackson Arnold can have a good season for Auburn and kind of show off why he was ranked as high as he was in the recruiting rankings. So right now I got Jackson Arnold number 9. I think he has plenty of time to get even higher than that. But I mean, I think he's more talented than everybody behind him on this list. And I think that the only thing holding him back is the production on the field. And that's why everybody who's ahead of him, except for maybe one guy, which I'll take some heat for from other fan bases, but I think I'm justified in why he's where he's at on my list. But Jackson Arnold at number 9 on my rankings. Up next, going to Arkansas, team that I think is also on the downward spiral, but I think Talon Green is good enough to get himself at the number 8 spot. Now, of course, Talon Green, the transfer out of Boise State last year, first year Arkansas, 3,100 yards passing, 15 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Statistically, his best season, but also he took 32 sacks. Rushing-wise, 602 yards rushing and 8 touchdowns. Arkansas was very good at running the ball last year. But I don't know if Arkansas could replicate that. I think Talon Green's going to do a lot of damage control to kind of fix what Arkansas is going to look like going into this season. Of course, I expect Arkansas to be on down year last year, but they had a decent-ish year for Arkansas. I don't think it can hold up. Sam Pittman falls into the same category as Mark Stoops to me, where I'm just kind of shocked that he's still a head coach. But players love him. He's not recruiting well, but he is well enough for Arkansas to where they are a team that people can kind of be wary of. So Talon Green at my number 8 spot. Now, another familiar face, Diego Pavia, coming in number 7 last year for Vanderbilt. 20 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 2,200 yards passing, as well as on the ground, 800 yards rushing and 8 touchdowns on the ground. Auburn is very familiar with Diego Pavia. Hugh Freeze even more knowledgeable of Diego Pavia. Of course, Auburn has never, or Hugh Freeze has never beaten Diego Pavia. Is 0-3 against him. Auburn is 0-2 versus Pavia. And he's going into a year where, again, kind of like Talon Green, he's kind of where he is because I don't think Vanderbilt can replicate the season they had last year. And, I mean, 6 wins is massive for Vanderbilt. But they lost some talent to other schools. And Pavia fought for his 18th year of eligibility. I don't know if he can replicate all of the superbness he had last year. I would like if he could versus like in Alabama. I think if he plays Alabama this year, he can do that again. But I don't think that he's going to be able to do what he did last year at the production that he did it. Of course, now I'm looking at Vanderbilt is returning like 70% of their production fully. But I find it hard to believe whenever teams are getting better in the SEC, Vanderbilt is going to be matching that. So right now, I got Pavia at 7. I think get higher, I think go lower. It kind of depends on how the season goes for Vanderbilt. So now getting into the top 6. Now I had to think about who I was putting at 6. Who else was putting at 6 and 5 here? But I think just because of hype and hype alone, I'm gonna have to knock Marcel Reed down to number 6. For Marcel Reed at Texas A&M last season. When he got the starting job, he took off with it. 1,800 yards passing, 15 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, while also getting 550 yards rushing and 7 tutties on the ground. So Marcel Reed is one of the most talented quarterbacks in the SEC. I think if you're looking at someone who could jump up higher than where he's at, it's him. Whenever Texas A&M was debating on who they were going to have at their quarterback going into this season, and you're like, one of them is going to have to transfer out. And I was really hoping it was going to be Marcel Reed. I was hoping Connor Wegman was going to find some way, shape, or form to trick the coaching staff into keeping him because, Auburn got Jackson Arnold, but I would have not said no to Marcel Reed. He is an absolute stud of an athlete, as a quarterback. He is a dog, and I think he is one of the most talented quarterbacks, not only in the SEC but the country. And it's hard to get some high praise like that for me for Texas A&M. But Marcel Reed is an absolute dog. I think he is going to be a great. And this is just time will tell how good he's going to be. But I think he's on the right track. A&M's got a lot of talent coming in as well. So getting into my top 5 now. I caught a lot of heat for this one for multiple reasons. 3, for him being too high, for him being too low, for him not being number 1 on the list. I had Arch Manning number 5, and now most of this is because he's as low as he is because of the lack of production that he has had. He's not been a starting quarterback for more than I think a game, if that. I don't think it's been a game, but you've only seen so much of Arch Manning, and he's as high because of the hype that he gets and because of the roster around him. Texas is always going to have one of the top rosters in the country. Arch Manning, of course, last year for the Longhorns, 939 yards passing, 9 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, also got himself 4 touchdowns on the ground. He's got a lot of talent. And of course, that's him being a Manning. He's got talent. Every single one of those, the Mannings have a magic gene pool where every single one of them just turn out to be great football players. Cooper being the outlier because of a horrific injury, but he would have been in the NFL alongside Peyton and Eli had his career not been knocked short. Arch Manning is going to be a good quarterback, but I cannot confidently put him any higher than 5 because I've not seen a top 4, top 3, top 2, top 1 quarterback performance out of him. He's played he played against Ohio State. He played that game. He didn't run the ball at all. He only had a carry for 8 yards. Did not played sparingly versus Clemson. Only had 3 carries. Against Georgia, ran the ball once. A&M ran the ball 3 times, and then Florida, he threw the ball, but they were already up. He threw the ball late in the Georgia game, but they were already down. And his best performances were in basically blowout games versus ULM and Mississippi State and UTSA. So, those are his big time games against. Even against like a ULM, he threw 2 interceptions in that game. Those are his 2 on the year. I got to see more of Arch Manning before I can put him any higher on this list. I think anyone who is putting him as 1, 2, 3 on this in the SEC is biting way too early on how good Arch Manning is going to be for Texas. Of course, Quinn Ewers would have been number 1 on my list last year. And towards the end of the year, he would not have been there anymore. He would have been knocked all the way down. Not too far down, but definitely about how his draft stock fell. Arch Manning, number 5 on my list. Now, number 4, I got DJ Lagway. I believe the youngest quarterback out of everybody left on this board coming out of his true freshman season, going into his true sophomore year. Of course, stat-wise, 1,900 yards passing, 12 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Not the greatest stat line in the world. 101 yards rushing. But whenever Lagway started and played the entirety of a game, Florida was 6-0. The kid knows how to win. And had the Georgia game, had he not gotten knocked out, who's to tell what would have happened with that game? He was having a decent performance, but of course, both those teams were playing a very good defense at the early stages of that game. But whenever he was in, he looked the part. And of course, he had those freshman rookie mistakes, and I think he'll bail on that. He's very talented. It's going to suck for Billy Napier whenever he transfers out because Billy Napier probably is not a good coach either. But Lagway, very good quarterback, very talented guy. Super excited to see how his career kind of unfolds. Florida's always been known for their great quarterbacks throughout their entire history. I think Lagway is just another name to put on that list whenever it's all said and done. Now, my top three. Before I get into my top three, I'm going to go a quick little break. Let's have this break. I'll finish out my list, so stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
Are you tired of having to rummage through just clothes after clothes after clothes looking for something to wear? Are you tired of your friends making fun of you for your terrible fashion sense? Well, do we have the shirt for you? Go to thewarreport.com, get your laptop out and do it right now. Go to the shop and get your very own Feelin' Loopy t-shirt as well as your college loop hat, and you can get both of them for only $25 each. Plus shipping and handling, of course. But with that, now back to your regular scheduled program.
Of course, available on thewarreport.com. Go to the shop, find your college loop merch on the second page of the War Report shop. But of course, the merch is only one way to support the channel. The best way to support the channel is, of course, by liking the video, by subscribing to the channel, and by commenting. What are your thoughts? Who do you have as your, I guess, Auburn fan base? Where do you have Jackson Arnold ranked in your SEC power rankings? And of course, what do you think of mine? Do you think they suck? Do you think they're good? Do you think I should change a few up? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Now we get to the top three of this list. Number 3, Garrett Nussmeier. Of course, a system quarterback in every sense of that word. 4,000-yard passer, though, last season. 29 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Not much of a runner, but a pure pocket passer. LSU, of course, always known for their wide receiver talent. Got another slew of wide receivers coming in for this season. I think Nussmeier is going to have a good year because he kind of has to for the draft stock that he currently holds. But you coming off a year where you throw for 4,000 yards. I think LSU is one of those teams that are kind of poster to be the favorite, one of the favorites in the SEC. And I think most of that's because of what Garrett Nussmeier does. I mean, of course, there's the joke that you either see Garrett Nussmeier either throws the best ball you've ever seen in your life or the worst throw you've ever seen. If he can just fix that issue, the consistency of that, which I mean, he's a 64% completion percentage. He has a 64% completion percentage and average like 8 yards a pass. I didn't really see the big deal there. Of course, the South Carolina game was like a big a game for him. But of course, he's had games like A&M where he's had 3 interceptions. He's had some multiple interception games, which I don't want to talk myself out of putting him as high as he is. But I do think Garrett Nussmeier goes into this year as one of the top quarterbacks in the SEC. Right now, I have a number 3. If I were to pick someone that could drop far on this list, it might be Garrett Nussmeier. But right now, I think he has plenty of room to move forward going ahead. I just think going after last year, the production that you saw, and then with him having LSU talent still around him, I think he's going to have a just as good year as he did this past year. Does that translate to the NFL level? It absolutely does not. But I think he has done very good at LSU in his time as a starting quarterback. Now, my top 2. Now, I guess if you're kind of keeping up with the teams that I've mentioned, you kind of understand who's left on this list. So number 2 is John Mateer, the Washington State transfer going to Oklahoma. 3,100 yards passing last year, 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, combining that with 826 yards rushing and 15 touchdowns. Here's the thing about John Mateer that I think a lot of people are forgetting about him. Had he not been a Washington freaking State and he put these numbers up, he would have been a Heisman candidate and his team would have been in the playoffs. But sadly, he was at Washington State. So, again, going to Oklahoma, there's no telling what Oklahoma looks like going into this year. People have them ranked. I don't get it. Definitely not proven that yet. But John Mateer is a good quarterback, number 1 quarterback out of the transfer portal. He's a great pickup, one of the best returning quarterbacks coming into the season because of what he did at Washington State. Whoever got him was going to get a stud. But right now I have a number 2 in the SEC. Lastly, on my list of my power rankings for the SEC's quarterbacks, number 1, I have Lenoris Sellers out of South Carolina. Last season, in his redshirt freshman year as the starting quarterback, 2,500 yards passing, 18 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, combining that with 674 yards rushing and 7 touchdowns on the ground. Also got himself a tackle as well. Never had a game with more than 1 interception in his freshman year as a starter. Had some low points going into like the Ole Miss game, but even he still had a decent-ish game. LSU, iffy game, but rushing wise did very well. But again, when I'm looking at this, I mean, I'm not seeing a bad game out of a freshman quarterback. I think he did what he needed to do to win games, and he did a good job of doing it. Going to this year, he's projected to be one of the top quarterbacks taken in the NFL draft. I think, again, make sure he can play another year like we saw. But again, he has all the talent in the world. I mean, you're looking at a 3-star quarterback that went to South Carolina. He has to get my apologies, because whenever Robbie Ashford went there, I didn't really know too much about Lenore Sellers. I went ahead and just sold myself on the idea of Robbie Ashford starting with South Carolina. Was not the case. Lenore Sellers was way more than I thought he was. And he showed that immediately the second he got on the field for the first time this year. So in my eyes, Lenore Sellers is the best quarterback in the SEC. Of course, let me know what you think of my list in the comment section below. Of course, where I'm at right now, Jackson Arnold, number 9 in the SEC. But I think you're looking at a boomer bust right there for Jackson Arnold going into 2025. Plenty of room to go up, plenty of room to go down. That's kind of why he's at 9. But with that being said, this was some College League podcast. Thank everyone for tuning in to this episode. Of course, let me know what you think in the comment section below of my list. Who should be higher? Who should be lower? Who should not be on this list because they might not even win the job? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Of course, don't forget to like and subscribe while you're doing that. Of course, check us out. Social media platforms, literally every single one of them: Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, the works. All of the College Loop audio versions of the show available on Spotify Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music. You can find me as well on Twitter at your boy the Tank, at YABOY the Tank. That's also my name on TikTok, which is also Tank Talks Football. That's got my Instagram as well, Dylan DYLNLARCK. Open up another YouTube channel very, very soon, also called Tank Talks Football, where you can find me on there. I'll be posting SEC content over there. Not closer to the season, but I'm trying to work everything out, get my schedule kind of figured out, and then I can get episodes up going on that channel. So check that out while you're in the description, I guess. So, of course, thanks for watching some upcoming podcast yet again. And as always, War Eagle.